over there. Welcome to Flat Earth Philosophy. Everything's about Flat Earth here. This video's a bit more in the description of our excuse me, our Earth and how it all works compared to magnets. So basically, Earth is like a ring magnet. Specifically, from what I understand and what I've studied, is a magnetron ring magnet from out of a microwave. It does everything I thought things would do. I never had a magnet when I started all this. I was describing the whole model. I said it was like a ring magnet. I finally got my hands on a ring magnet and it worked exactly the same. So let's start at the center of the hyperboloid, which is basically the center convergence point of all the energy in a ring magnet. Center. It creates this hyperboloid, right? So basically the flux of the magnet, well, the flux of the magnet is gradient. I've mentioned this in earlier videos and just recently spotted it on this video by Super Magnet Man. So check this video out. It's called Magnetic Vortices in Motion and Magnetic Gradients. So as you step away from the magnet, it's gradients. And this is like our atmosphere. We have 7 atmospheric layers. They don't talk about it. They give you 4, don't they? But there's 7. So they're all making up for the 7 everything. 7 noble gases, 7 colours of the light spectrum, and even underground has 7 main gradients in the subterranean construction. Soil to flippin' granite. So anyway, back to the hyperboloid. So the hyperboloid's coming out, and somewhere along the line, Earth found balance. It's been created through the 2 forces, negative and positive, or north and south, and found equilibrium due to some resonant frequency that was perfect, like firing a solar luminescence a frequency into a bubble. If you don't get it right, the bubble will explode. But there must be some perfect frequency that created life, because it created the voltage, the spark, and created the sun. So once the sun is bang created, bang, you've got life. It can be just like that. Because as soon as the sun's created, it won't be just like that, maybe a few hours or a few days. But once the sun's created, it becomes a conductor of the magnetic field and causes the magnetic field to flow. So you can call them electrons. If something's flowing, causes them to flow. They're drawn to the sun. And the sun sits right on the horizon of the black hole. What's a black hole? The black hole is created from perfection. It's the plane of inertia, the state of rest, and this is where life came from. Perfection. So there has to be this voidant zone of perfection that creates life. So nothing actually gets to the dead centre. There's always a voidant zone, a circle, where all the action is, where the electron, the magnetic field is coming and rushing and avoiding each other. They're not actually hitting each other, and this is what they call the neutron. So this is basically the nucleus of an atom. So we basically live in an atom. I mean, a lot of people don't like to talk of atomism and all that sort of, but they don't really know. They're not going deep enough. This is what it is. The nucleus. It's all the same thing. So you've got the proton, which is the sun, the nucleus, the neutral, which is the plane of inertia, the neutral zone, avoidance zone. The proton sitting on it, sitting there on the edge of it, the sun, just like you see in an atom, well, what they tell you anyway, and the electrons out here doing their thing. They're flowing. It's the magnetic field. But then you've got to consider the moon as the electron, the negative, and the sun is the positive. So when the sun moves around away, leaving the moon behind, the moon will then drift out on the ecliptic plane until the sun, and when the sun goes around half a cycle, it actually, the full moon's right out here, and the sun's here. But the moon's right out there. I haven't got my finger on that. It must be positively charged when it's sitting way up there. But basically, it's feeding the planets like children, like the parents, the sun and the mother, the moon and the sun, and the planets are the children. The moon distributes the sun's energy onto these planets. But anyway, when the full moon and when the sun moves around, the moon starts coming back in again, and then it's drawn back to the sun again. So it comes right in, but the sun's on this side of the hole though when the moon comes back into full moon. New moon, sorry. So there's always that voidance zone. So you've got the sun on this side of the hole and the new moon on this side. And that's the way the sun shines. That's why you don't see the moon. It cancels out the moon's frequency. So the sun can cancel out the frequency of any of the celestial bodies because the sun holds all the frequencies. So everything else can get lost in the face of the sun. Okay? So science doesn't tell you the moon's going out like that in a cardioid in its whole monthly cycle. It's always going around. They're both going around each day, but the sun's twice as quick. But the sun's spiralling out, and then it comes back in. As it comes in, it's getting quicker because it's coming to the force of the centre. That's where the strong force is. And he'll tell you this in this video, the gradients of the magnet. And even science tells you when the moon comes in, it gets quicker. But what I see of science, they just have the moon going like this. They don't have it coming in, spiralling in like this and spiralling back out, do they? Yet they talk about it speeding up as it's coming in. I don't know. So you've got this hyperboloid, and then the flux when the sun's being created, it just takes off like this. It explodes out like this and goes plop. So you can imagine that this is the vortex. It just goes straight over and plop like this. So this centre hole of avoidance, bang, straight over to the tropics. Into this now the created. So in the centre of let's say the universe, we'll call it the universe. It's just the centre of the magnet to start with. The hyperboloid centre of convergence of, say, this a torus field. And this is what all flat earthers just think it's just one straight torus field. They don't know about understand the gap. So you take the centre and then boom, the sun's been created, it creates life. So it creates the plane of inertia. Bang, and this becomes the created. So from the created becomes the created, goes plonk. So now the sun is on the horizon here. And that's the tropical gap. This voidance zone is the tropical gap. Just like you had the voidance zone in here. Comes out here. So imagine this little face here of the centre, goes straight over there, bonk, is now on this space here. So it's understanding that the tropical gap is the voidance zone. And the magnetic field, as it's flowing over our flat earth, avoids the tropical gap and shoots down, crosses over and goes back up this way. Then comes over and goes down again. This is the recycling system like this. Down, coming down, and we've got the hydrogen molecule coming up, and this is the friction of the two forces that creates the electrical system. because the changing magnetic field creates the electrical system, and the electrical system creates the changing magnetic field system. So, where are we going? So, understanding the pressure gradients. So the pressure gradients he talks about in that video, you can take as the ecliptic plane. They're the gradients. The further out from the centre, it becomes weaker and weaker. Okay? And now there's the ecliptic plane there, but in our realm, when we're from the flat earth looking up, the gradients go this way. And this is where the planets will sit in. The 7 wandering stars all have their planes, basically frequency bands. And then one of those bands, those 7 bands, you'll get all the other bands, like all the radio bands that we use down here, and as you go up through the spectrum, from radio waves to gamma rays, they all have their own set of bands. It's like in musical notes, right? There's 7, isn't there? So we think of the sun, ecliptic plane. So okay, so we've got the tropical gap here, right? Tropical gap, but the sun, the actual sun sits back in the centre here. So you've got the tropical gap out here. So consider the sun at the centre. The sun we do not see creates the sun we do see, only by a focal point in the magnetic field, the electromagnetic field. So the sun back here, and here's the ecliptic plane. The ecliptic plane goes, tilts up and in the flat earth system, and down and out. Down and out, all the way around, and then up and in. So consider the sun here, here's the ecliptic plane. So let's say you're going down and out, so the south out the far side here. So the sun is shining, the sun doesn't move, it just turns. It's the expansion and contraction, or up and down the pressure in our earthly system, where the ecliptic plane is going like that, or goes like this, up and down like a forget the word, anyway, diaphragm. Okay, so the sun's here shining this way, so this is down and out, it's shining out south. And then the season's changing, the ecliptic plane's coming, this backside's coming back up. So, see the sun is hitting these places, and then when it's the equinox, it's equilibrium. But you don't think of it as a laser light, it just follows the magnetic field and the pressure, and it ends up in the centre. That's equilibrium, that's the equinox. And then it starts going up towards the northern hemisphere solstice, so the sun starts going like this. The sun itself doesn't move, it's following the magnetic field across the earth, and the ecliptic plane is going like this. So it's going in like this. That's what creates the seasonal changes. That's down and out. So the sun will shine right out there, and then the ecliptic plane starts, so the sun's here, then the plane comes up, so the sun out there, it's just levelling off with the sun. The sun follows this plane as it's levelling off. Have I described that well? I don't think I have. But roughly that's how it works. It's the ecliptic plane tilting like that. The sun's in the middle. It doesn't tilt. It just turns. See, that's even told in mythological stories regarding Virgo and stuff. About how one of the stories about how boring the sun is, because that's all it does. It just turns like this. moon's a little bit more active. Now, it's understanding why Earth is so much like a magnet. And what else we got? I should be wandered off what I thought I was going to be doing the video about. But basically, that's how you have to think of Earth, as a ring magnet, and it's flux. The flux is greater because as you go up, it gets weaker and weaker as you move away from the Earth. The pressure reduces and everything expands. That's what the video is mainly about. Moving south. So, you know, as we go up, everything expands. We'll get ripped to shreds if you go through the tropical gap. If you go towards the sun, you'll get ripped to shreds. But in the other part of the world, you just go up and you hit this force field. I mean, we'll die anyway, but a rocket or a machine will go up and hit this, because that's pressurized. And there's no pressure here. And that pressure hits this wider dispersed field. It's not equilibrium, is it? It's bouncing off it. You stay down here in the pressure. It's just like humans can't keep walking south or north because the pressure stops them. They'll eventually die. You cannot do it. No machine will get them there. It's just the way it is. So when we move south, out from the hyperboloid, expansion, it's the toroidal field, right? Expanding outwards. Everything expands with it. Because Earth it's creation. Expanding like this, forever expanding, coming back around again. So everything expands as it goes out. Everything. And this is why science tells you that the longitudes, you know, the latitude, each latitude, the longitudes, as you go south, are getting smaller after the equator. But they're not. It's because everything has expanded, and realise it's stated in the book, the Bible. Earth is fixed and stationary. So Earth is fixed, but the field over it is not. It expands. So you're expanding with it as you move south. So you only expand so far to the tropics, yeah, and you keep expanding. There's this variance, there's difference, because the magnetic field, how it swings out of the Arctic centre, swings around, curls around this way into the Tropic of Cancer, that curving there. So putting the curving magnetic fields aside, we all expand as we go south, everything. And you can't determine this, it's all metaphysical. It's all written in ancient metaphysics, philosophy, but you can't prove it, can you? You can't take a measuring stick anywhere with you, because it expands with you. Like all the atoms are all being expanded outwards. So you get right out there, you're getting bigger and bigger. So because you're getting bigger and bigger, you're getting across the earth quicker. The way it is. And this is what science can't get their head around. Or they probably can, but they don't want you to know about it. Because knowing, Walter Russell said, everything is light. We are in the ether. We are like beings in the ether. Like cartoon characters. It's the same thing. Moving cartoon characters. This is what we are. But we're resonating to this frequency of like 350,000 kilometres per second. We look as though we're fixed and stationary too, or, you know, solid. That's what it is. So some of the guys have been talking about creating a model. So if anyone wants to help create the model, we should do it. Someone was saying, Bob offered this to me and I didn't accept it, but I can't remember that. Maybe it just went over my head. And apparently Bob owns, you know, from Globebusters, owns this site that I was desperately trying to get hold of a couple of years ago because their sun model was bang on. The only thing I didn't understand is where the sun was coming from, and I wanted to tell them. But that model of the sun doing its thing comes back to nature as well, because that's what the starlings do. A flock of birds, starlings, do the same sort of pattern. All the animals represent something to do with the flat earth model. I've stated this plenty of times. So it all starts with the hyperboloid, a toroidal field, one big flux, till the sun is created. So the magic is probably finding how to get the voltage out of a magnet. That's probably the end of our existence once that happens. You probably go boom, and then it restarts again. That's just a thought. Because once the sun is created, the bang and spark, that splits this toroidal field, gives it the tropical gap, the toroidal field. It's the toroidal field. But that's creation. So to create the sun, you create creation. So, wow. I wonder what would happen if they really did get cold fusion, the plasma organised, did it properly. What would happen? I think that's the ultimate goal. The story goes, you come here to save the world. And saving the world is explaining the meaning to life to people, but also energy-wise maybe, explaining and showing how the cold fusion works. But that could be the end of our time. As soon as we discover that, bang, we've reached the ultimate, and boom, it's all gone. Then you start again, and only the enlightened will be left on the earth to regenerate it. This is all pie in the sky stuff, of course, but that could be the way. So I've got to work on how to explain this cold fusion. So that's how I'll be spending a bit of my time. Science has got the basics. When you look at the nuclear fusion, they have the system where it's expansion and contraction. But they're always smashing things together. I just saw a Ken Wheeler video just the other day. He was going on about this. I'm not sure if it's a recent one or an old one. The common man, he's busy smashing everything to pieces. But Ken didn't go on to explain in the cold fusion where you don't smash it together. It's expansion and contraction. It's all cold fusion. We all know you get colder the higher you go up. There's no hot sun up there. And the sun, a superconductor, it's a conductor. I've been over this before in other videos, so I don't want to repeat myself. But it's understanding you expand as you go south. The earth does not shrink, you expand. It does not shrink back to a ball and you live upside down here in Australia and New Zealand, spinning, flying through la la land forever and ever, never hitting a goddamn thing for no reason whatsoever. It all comes back to understanding your meaning to life. This is what I'm going to have to get onto. Now, once we get the whole model and everyone understands it, the connection between man and earth. His brain is earth. It's just a big earth. The two hemispheres, the sun, the pineal gland, understanding how we're connected to the earth, just as the Bible tells us, we are of the earth, from the earth, created from its dust. You can call the dust the flux, the magnetic field. The snake goes along thy ground and over thy field. We're in the field. What is a field? You can take a stab at that. Basically the magnetic flux, the moving toroidal field. the ether, the hydrogen molecule, the moisture, electromagnetic energy in the field. So it's getting the model created. It takes a lot of, it'd be costly to get someone to do it in 3D computerized imaging. But I've got the whole model.